a 2016 interview that was discovered by journalist Walker Bragman, Michael Bloomberg insulted the intelligence of various groups of people, including young voters who are supportive of Bernie Sanders. Take a look.
Solution to our problem is to improve education, not to try to penalize people because they are successful. If you don't have successful people, you're never going to have the wherewithal to help those who are not. We've tried socialism, it doesn't work. And I'll leave you with a thought. There was a guy, Bernie Sanders, who would have beaten Donald Trump. The polls show he would have walked away with it. But Hillary Clinton got the nomination for a variety of reasons. What did Donald Trump stand for? He stood for something, he called it democratic socialism. And the young people, I don't mean to knock young people, I wish I was one again, but young people listened to Donald Trump, to Bernie Sanders, and they said, yeah, democratic, that's good. Socialism, yeah, that's that social media stuff. Because our kids no longer learn civics in school, they no longer study Western history, they no longer read Western literature. We are trying to change and dumb down the system, and if you don't know what happened in the past, you're gonna have to relive it.
That was one of the dumbest statements I've heard someone make.
He dumbed down the system.
And what's ironic is he's attempting to call young voters dumb. And what he fails to understand is that it's not about learning civics in our public schools. In fact, history classes and civics classes are purposely narrow in what they teach students. But I think with the internet, people are able to, especially young people, are able to really look at other countries, other systems, and see what works, what doesn't, do a true analysis and comparison between what we're doing, what other countries are doing, and what we can do to improve. And so to insult the intelligence of young voters and make it appear as though they don't know what socialism is and they confuse it with social media is ridiculous. But more importantly, he didn't get challenged on this, but he said, we've tried socialism, it didn't work. Really, what are you referring to when you say that we tried socialism and it didn't work? Because Social Security is a socialist program and it's tremendously popular, so popular that every time politicians try to cut funding for it, they get met with great opposition because Americans want you to keep your grubby little hands off of Social Security. Same with Medicare. Those are socialist programs. But I mean, it doesn't stop there. There are many socialist programs in this country.
Yeah, Twitter, TikTok, MySpace, great socialism media platforms.
It's just so, I mean, he's so dumb, and yet he ironically tries to make young people out to be the dumb ones.
No, imagine so since the 2016 election, the DSA's membership has, quadrupled more. They have a billion more. Imagine someone it's the DSA, it's something about social media, and they sit in meeting after meeting, and 6 months later, they're like, when are you gonna talk about Instagram? You think that's the surge of new activists and the candidates all over the country and the people canvassing and working on local issues and all of that, is that they've been bamboozled?
I mean, look, the only time a discussion about social media and socialism takes place is when there's a discussion about possibly turning it into a public utility.
Yeah.
So I assure you, young people know what they're talking about when they mention socialism.
Who is more aware and tapped in than activists like people who would have in the past couple of years entered the DSA? First of all, also, if we're talking about who knows the history and about different systems and stuff, these are people who for fun read political philosophy books and political history books.
Yeah.
It's exactly the opposite of what he's describing.
And then one other point I wanted to make about that clip, in the beginning, he talks about how Bernie Sanders would have beaten Trump. So he concedes that. Remember, this video is from 2016. And so he starts off by admitting something that's been proven in polling, that's been proven in polling that takes place right now, right, in this election. And then he realizes, oh man, I'm messing up. I'm giving this self-professed, democratic socialist too much credit. Let me go ahead and make his supporters out to be dumb. But it's not gonna work, right? So if that's the strategy he's gonna try to use, have at it. I don't know if it's gonna work out well for you if you're gonna insult voters. But by the way, he also insulted Midwesterners, which you're about to see in this next clip.
I don't know how many are familiar with the bathroom issue in the United States. Anybody know what I'm talking about? If you want to know, is somebody a good salesman, give them the job of going to the Midwest and picking a town and selling to that town the concept that some man wearing a dress should be in the locker room with their daughter. If you can sell that, you can sell anything. I mean, they just look at you and they say, what on earth are you talking about? And you say, well, this person identifies his or her gender as different than what's on their birth certificate. And they say, what do you mean? You're either born this or you're born that. And you know, I will say, in our prison system in New York City, we have to have the policy when you walk in, you know, drop your trousers, you go this way, you go that way. That's it, because you can't sit there and you can't mix things in a jail. That's a practical case of where you have to make a decision. But it's so many things that we are nuanced, and the social issues that we're very proud of achieving aren't believed by the vast bulk of the people.
So first and foremost, he is incredibly insulting to the trans community. There's no question about that. And then, I mean, he managed to insult everyone in that statement, because he goes after the trans community and refers to a trans woman as a man with a dress on, which is disgusting right-wing language. But you can expect that from a right-winger. That's what Bloomberg is. He was a Republican until like yesterday. But more importantly, his tactic in insulting voters, potential voters, is a disaster, which I'm actually very giddy about, because if you want to do that, have at it. I don't want him to win the nomination. This is what Biden does in a way, like he decides to antagonize potential voters. And this is what he did with, this is what Bloomberg's now doing with Midwestern voters. Like, you know, we're nuanced and we understand things, but you know, these people in the Midwest, they're dumb. They don't understand anything.
That's like a good Marvelous Miss Maisel impression right there. We are nuanced. I didn't get much nuance off of him. I didn't get any understanding. I don't think that Midwesterners are the only problem in this issue. I think that he comes at it from a really bad direction. And also, I think, like, if you want to get an idea of what a person's movement would be like if they had a movement. We know Bernie Sanders' movement. He has lifted up and defended both the rights of and the future economic and social interests of any number of different groups. That's his movement. Bloomberg is screaming to you, I am not going to try to push anything new on anyone who I don't think already agrees with me. I'm gonna run the softest, milquetoast, easily accessible campaign ever. I'm not gonna try to change anything in society. Like, Obama sort of had to be moved on same-sex marriage, for instance. Okay, if that had been Bloomberg, he's telling you, well, you can't do that because then you're gonna lose Midwest or anything. You don't wanna, like, rock the boat or anything. And so if people are already doing well, if you have an individual, they're already doing well, then maybe he's your man in terms of like the stock market or something like that. But if you have been victimized, if you have been attacked and targeted by past administrations, he's not gonna care about you because you're a political liability, hypothetically.
And I think that he's a target-rich environment if he were to, God forbid, win the Democratic nomination. Because I mean, look, his big gay ice cream ad that's all you really need, right? But Trump, remember, he can go ahead and point to corruption and legalize bribery, even though he's exploited that system himself, even though he's a corrupt politician, even though he's broken the law while in office, it doesn't matter. Nothing sticks to him, right? But when it comes to Bloomberg and when it comes to Democrats, somehow Trump is able to demonize his political opponents for the very behavior that he engages in. And so I just see Bloomberg as a target-rich environment. I don't think that he has the ability to win the Democratic nomination, but he does have a lot of money. And he's been pumping out ads all over the country, and he's been able to experience this rise in the polls from doing absolutely nothing in campaigning. All he's done is raise money. No, he hasn't raised money. He's self-funded because he's a billionaire. But he's going out there and he's just putting money into ads. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I believe for historical perspective, although many people might not even remember this, back during the 90s, there was Ross Perot, who was like this rich guy who self-funded, he ran twice. He spent, I believe, check me, I believe he spent $70 million.
Wow.
That's like 8 days of Bloomberg. And that was a national story for years, was his self-funded campaigns. It was nothing. Tom Steyer has already blown him away in terms of the funding. But lastly on this topic, I just imagine, what if you're a trans American and you're looking at this and you're thinking, God help us if he ends up being the candidate. That I have Trump, who's actively trying to earn votes off of attacking me, taking away my rights, demonizing me and all of that, supported by right-wing media that is more and more hyper-focused and obsessed on trans people on a daily basis. And then who is the person who I'm supposed to look to as an alternative? It's someone who sees me as something that should be hidden. Maybe you have the right thoughts, but don't ever vocalize them. Don't talk about these people, don't advocate for them, because you might turn off someone that you've never even met.
And that's not what a leader would do,
yeah.
right?